The rain poured hard that night, washing away the blood from her trembling hands. Elena Romano staggered down the empty street, her vision blurry, her heartbeat faint. She had called her father, her mother, her brother. No one answered. The same family that once smiled for pictures at glittering galas had thrown her away like she was nothing, all because she refused to take the fall for her father's dirty deal. A car slowed beside her. She froze. The window rolled down, revealing the cruel smirk of one of her father's men. "Your family sends their regards," he said coldly, before shoving her hard into the gravel and driving off into the night. Pain shot through her side. Her body was breaking, but her spirit refused to. She tried to crawl, gasping for air. "Please," she whispered to no one, "I don't want to die." That's when she saw them, 3 black SUVs pulling up silently, engines humming like predators. The doors opened and tall men in black suits stepped out. Their presence was lethal, commanding. Then he appeared. Dante Moretti. Even from where she lay, Elena could sense the danger rolling off him. The stories didn't lie, cold-hearted, untouchable, the mafia boss who ruled the underworld with iron precision. His gaze landed on her, bruised, bloodied, shaking. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, with a voice deep and sharp as a blade, he ordered, "Bring her to my car." His men hesitated. "Boss, she could be." I said. Dante's tone dropped, icy and final. "Bring her?" Strong arms lifted her. She wanted to resist, but the darkness closed in too fast. The last thing she saw was his face, unreadable yet concerned. When her eyes fluttered shut, Dante was still staring down at her, jaw tight. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know why she mattered. But in that instant, something in him, something buried deep, refused to walk away. Elena woke to the faint scent of antiseptic and expensive cologne. Her body ached, her throat dry, but the sheets beneath her were silk, soft, unfamiliar, too clean. Her lashes fluttered open to find herself in a dimly lit room, golden chandeliers casting warm light across dark marble walls. The sound of rain was gone, replaced by distant murmurs and the rhythmic tick of a clock. "Where am I?" she whispered. A deep voice answered from the corner. "You're safe. For now." Her eyes darted to him, the man from the alley. The one who had ordered his men to bring her in. Dante Moretti leaned against the wall, black shirt unbuttoned at the throat, eyes dark and unreadable. "You were dying when I found you," he said calmly. "I don't usually save strangers." Elena struggled to sit up, wincing. "Then why did you?" He didn't answer. He simply stared at her, long enough for her heartbeat to quicken in confusion and fear. Finally he spoke, voice low. "Something about you didn't let me walk away." A knock on the door broke the tension. One of his men stepped in, hesitant. "Boss, we traced her ID. Name's Elena Romano, daughter of." Dante's eyes sharpened. "Romano?" The man nodded. "Yes, sir. The Romano family." Silence fell. Dante turned his gaze back to her, and the air thickened with danger. The Romanos were his enemies, the ones who had double-crossed him in a gun deal 2 years ago. He'd sworn vengeance, promised to destroy them all. And now their daughter was lying in his bed. Elena noticed his sudden stillness. What did they say?" He stepped closer, each stride deliberate. "You're a Romano." She froze. "You know my family?" "Oh," he murmured darkly, a faint smirk curving his lips. "Better than you think." He turned away, voice clipped. "Rest. You're safe here." But as he left the room, his thoughts burned. He should have left her there. But now that she was under his roof, he wasn't sure he could ever let her go. When Elena opened her eyes again, sunlight streamed through tall glass windows. The room was beautiful, too beautiful for someone like her. Velvet curtains, gold trim, and a view of the sea that looked endless. Her bruises had been cleaned and bandaged. A tray of untouched food sat beside her bed. Still, fear clawed at her chest. Where was she? Why had he saved her? The door opened and a woman entered, elegant, with sharp eyes. "I'm Sophia," she said curtly. "Mr. Moretti asked me to look after you." Elena blinked. "Mr. Moretti? The man who brought you here." The name echoed in her mind. Dante Moretti. The underworld whispered about him, cold, ruthless, untouchable. The mafia boss of Milan. Sophia's tone softened slightly. He doesn't like wasting food." Elena forced herself to take a few bites, though her stomach twisted with nerves. She needed answers, and her chance came sooner than she expected. That evening the door opened again. Dante walked in. No guards. No words. Just him, Tall, calm, radiating danger. Elena stiffened. Why am I here? He studied her, eyes lingering on her bandaged arms. Because I found you dying in the street. And because I wanted to. That's not an answer. Dante tilted his head slightly. You're bold for someone who doesn't even know where she is. I didn't ask to be here, she shot back. I just want to leave. His lips curved, not in amusement but warning. If you walk out that door, your family's enemies will finish what they started. You wouldn't last an hour. Her chest tightened. So what, I'm your prisoner now? He stepped closer, his voice low enough to make her pulse quicken. No, Elena. You're my guest. But when his gaze locked with hers, dark, possessive, unrelenting, something in her knew he wasn't telling the truth. She wasn't a guest. She was a secret he didn't plan to let go. Days passed in uneasy silence. Elena stayed in the grand mansion, watched by guards who never spoke, surrounded by luxury that felt more like a cage. She tried asking Sofia about Dante, but the woman only replied, "He doesn't like people prying." One night, Elena wandered out to the balcony. The sea wind brushed her face, and for the first time since the alley, she felt a flicker of peace, until she heard the voice behind her. Can't sleep? Dante stood in the doorway, sleeves rolled up, a faint scar cutting across his knuckles. He looked dangerous even when he was calm. I'm used to silence, she said quietly, but not this kind. He walked closer, eyes never leaving her. You're healing fast. I've had practice, she muttered. His gaze softened just for a second. Your family did this to you? Elena swallowed hard. They blamed me for something I didn't do. My father's deal went wrong and I was the scapegoat. A bitter laugh escaped Dante's lips. Romano justice. I shouldn't be surprised. She turned sharply. You know them. His silence told her everything. Her heart pounded. Tell me. Finally he said it, voice deep, controlled but edged with fury. Your father once made a deal with me. He stole my money. My men died because of him. Elena stepped back stunned. So you saved me to get revenge? He met her eyes, something dark flickering there. I thought I might. But now. He paused, gaze traveling over her face, bruises fading, eyes burning with defiance. Now I'm not so sure what I want. She shivered under his stare, unsure if she was more afraid of his anger, or his interest. He turned away before she could answer. Rest, Elena. You'll need your strength. As he left, she caught sight of another scar along his neck, faint but deep, a mark of his own pain, his own wars. For the first time, she wondered if the monster everyone feared was just another soul scarred by betrayal. Elena had been in the mansion for a week, and the silence was suffocating. Every door she tried was locked. Every hallway watched. Freedom was a memory she could almost taste, until she tried to take it. That morning, while the guards were changing shifts, she slipped out. Barefoot, heart racing, she darted across the marble floors, past the courtyard toward the gates. She was only a few feet from the exit when a familiar voice froze her. Going somewhere? Dante's tone was calm, but his presence made the guards stiffen instantly. Elena spun around. You can't keep me here forever. He stepped closer, slow and deliberate. Forever? No. He paused. But until it's safe? Yes. I don't need your protection, she snapped. I just want my life back. Dante's expression hardened. Your life. He took another step, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous rumble. The people who left you to die still want you dead. And if you walk out that gate, I won't be there to stop them next time. Her breath caught. His words stung not because they were cruel, but because they were true. You think I'm doing this for fun? He continued. Every man in that alley wanted you gone. You're alive because I said otherwise. So until I decide it's safe, you follow my rules. Her hands trembled with anger. And what are your rules, Dante? He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that warned more than it charmed. Simple, he said. You don't leave my sight. You don't lie to me. And you don't make me regret saving you. Their eyes locked, the air thick with something neither could name, defiance and tension, tangled with something far more dangerous. I don't belong to you, she whispered. He leaned in, his breath brushing her ear. No, he murmured, but you're under my protection. And that comes with a price. He turned and walked away, leaving her trembling, not from fear this time, but from the realization that the mafia boss who had saved her was slowly becoming her cage. The next morning Dante didn't appear, but his world did. Elena followed Sofia down a long marble corridor into a room buzzing with tension. Men in suits stood around a massive table covered in maps, files, and stacks of cash. Guns gleamed under the chandelier. She froze at the door. What is this place? Sophia gave her a sharp look. Mr. Moretti's business. But it wasn't business, it was power. Every word spoken, every command given carried weight that could destroy lives. And at the center of it all, Dante stood, calm, calculating, untouchable. He glanced up and saw her. For a moment the mask slipped. His eyes softened, then hardened again. Who let her in? She wanted to see where she was living, Sophia answered quickly. Dante's jaw tensed. This isn't a playground. Elena crossed her arms. I'm tired of being hidden away like a secret. If I'm staying here, I deserve to know what kind of man you are. He moved closer, each step measured, dangerous. You already know, he said quietly. You just don't want to believe it. Before she could answer, one of his men burst in. Boss, it's the Romano family. They're asking questions about her. The room went still. Dante's eyes darkened. They're looking for her? Yes, sir. They think she survived. Elena's stomach twisted. They want to finish it, she whispered. Dante turned toward her. They won't touch you again. Something about the way he said it, so absolute, so lethal, sent a chill down her spine. After the meeting, she found him on the balcony, staring out at the ocean. The wind tousled his hair, the city lights flickering behind him. Do you ever stop fighting? She asked softly. He didn't look at her. In this world, the moment you stop fighting, you die. For the first time, Elena saw the loneliness in his eyes, the kind that came from years of blood and betrayal. And she realized something terrifying. The more she saw of his world, the less she wanted to leave it. Days turned into nights, and Elena began to notice subtle changes in Dante, the way his gaze lingered a second too long, the sharp protective gestures that left no room for argument. One evening she tried to walk alone through the mansion's gardens, the moon casting silver shadows over the hedges. Not here, a voice growled from the shadows. Dante stepped into view, expression unreadable. Why do you test me? I'm not a child, she shot back, refusing to look away. He advanced, calm, deliberate, his presence filling the night. I'm not treating you like one. I'm keeping you alive. Her lips trembled with a mix of fear and something else she refused to name. I can survive on my own. Maybe, he said, voice low and dangerous, but can you survive them? His dark eyes bore into hers. Because if anything happens to you, I won't forgive anyone. Not them. Not you. Not even myself. Elena felt a shiver run down her spine. He was dangerous, lethal, and yet she sensed that beneath that control, a storm of obsession was brewing. Over the next days, Dante became more present, guarding her meals, monitoring her sleep, watching her with a possessiveness that left no doubt. She was his. When she tried to argue, he would simply place a hand on her shoulder, heavy, firm, and unyielding. Don't mistake my care for weakness, he said once darkly. I have no patience for people who risk my life. Elena realized she was learning his rules the hard way. Every glance, every word, every step outside his protection could ignite his fury. Yet, paradoxically, she found herself drawn to him, terrified of the man who could kill without thought, yet craving the warmth that only his obsession brought. That night, as she lay in her room, Elena caught herself thinking of him. The same man who had saved her life, who had made her his responsibility, who was slowly consuming her world, and perhaps her heart. For the first time she understood the truth. Dante Moretti wasn't just protecting her. He was obsessed. And she wasn't sure if she wanted him to stop. The mansion was unusually quiet when Elena heard the hum of expensive cars pulling up outside. Her stomach twisted with a mix of fear and dread. They're here, Sophia whispered, appearing at the doorway. Your family. They know you're alive. Elena's hands trembled. She had dreamed of this day, and feared it in equal measure. The people who had abandoned her, left her to die, now dared to return. Dante entered the room, calm as ever, but the sharp set of his jaw betrayed the storm inside him. Romano blood, he muttered, eyes dark. They're bold to come here. Elena swallowed hard. They're my family, she said softly. I have to face them. You don't understand, Dante said, stepping closer. They don't want you back. They want leverage. And if you go out there, you won't be safe for a second. She shook her head. I'm not a prisoner, Dante. I can't be. He studied her, and for a moment, Elena thought she saw hesitation, an unfamiliar vulnerability in the Mafia boss who seemed untouchable. The front doors opened and two figures stepped in, her father and her brother, their faces tight with greed and fear. "Elena," her father said, voice cold, practiced. "You're alive. That's surprising." Dante's presence loomed behind her, silent but threatening. Elena felt the weight of his attention, fierce and protective. "You thought you could use her against me," Dante said quietly, his voice like ice, "but she is under my roof. And no harm will come to her while I'm breathing." Her father's eyes flicked nervously to him. "This isn't over," he muttered before being escorted out by Dante's men. Alone again, Elena felt her heart race. Fear had been replaced by something more complicated: gratitude, awe, and a strange comfort in the dangerous man who had saved her. Dante's hand brushed hers, light but possessive. "No one touches what's mine," he murmured. Elena swallowed, realizing she didn't want to be free from him. Not from the man who had become her protector, her obsession, her cage, and perhaps, her only home. Elena had just fallen asleep when the alarm screamed through the mansion. Her heart leapt. Something was wrong. Dante burst into her room, eyes blazing with fury. "They've taken you," he growled. His voice shook, not with fear but with raw rage. "What? Who?" she whispered, panic choking her. "The Romano family. They've set a trap. They think they can use you to hurt me," he said, pulling her close. His hands were trembling slightly, a rare crack in his usually unshakable control. Before she could protest, he spun toward the exit. Guards scrambled, cars roared to life, and within minutes they were racing through the dark city streets. Elena clung to him, feeling the sheer power radiating off the man who had saved her life, and was now ready to destroy anyone who dared touch her. The hideout was tense, filled with shadows and men whispering urgently. Dante's eyes scanned every corner, calculating, plotting, and finally landing on her. "You're safe," he murmured, brushing a damp strand of hair from her face. But Elena could feel the storm in his veins, a storm that promised blood if anyone dared harm her. A few tense hours later, Dante found her. The Romano men were no match. The warehouse was littered with the aftermath: broken furniture, shattered glass, and unconscious bodies. He pulled Elena into his arms, furious, trembling with a possessiveness that sent shivers down her spine. "You have no idea what you mean to me," he whispered, voice low and hoarse. "You were never my weakness. You're my reason. And anyone who touches you will pay, in blood." Elena felt tears prick her eyes, not from fear this time, but from the overwhelming intensity of his obsession, the depth of his protection. "You saved me, again," she whispered. Dante's dark eyes softened just enough to show a sliver of something she had never expected: tenderness. "I will always save you. Always." In that moment, Elena realized the truth. She was no longer just the girl abandoned by her family. She was the woman who had captured the heart, and the obsession, of the most dangerous man in the city. The mansion was quiet again, but the air was heavy with tension and unspoken emotions. Elena sat by the window, staring at the city lights, her heart still racing from the night's chaos. The Romano family had been neutralized, their threat gone, but the choice before her remained. Dante entered silently, his presence filling the room like a storm. Every step he took was measured, deliberate, dangerous. His gaze landed on her, dark, intense, and expectant. "You have a choice," he said softly, voice low, almost vulnerable. "You can leave. Walk away from me, from this world, and be free." Elena's hands trembled. Freedom had been a dream, a fantasy, and yet, it came with the same faces that had abandoned her once. Could she trust them again? Could she survive out there, unprotected? She looked up at him. His sharp features, the dark fire in his eyes, the dangerous calm that radiated from every movement, it terrified her and drew her in all at once. "I was abandoned once," she whispered. "But I won't leave you." Dante's expression softened, just for a fleeting moment. Then the familiar edge returned, dangerous and possessive. He stepped closer, lowering his hand to brush her cheek, leaving a trail of warmth that made her shiver. "You never will," he murmured, his voice like velvet and steel combined. "You belong to me now. Not because I demand it, but because I choose to protect, to possess, to obsess over you." Elena felt the weight of his words, the certainty of his obsession, and the fierce, dark love that had been building since the alley that night. She smiled, a mix of fear, desire, and relief. "Then I choose you," she said. Dante's lips curved into a dangerous, satisfied smile. "Good," he said, voice low, promising. "Because I'll never let you go. Never." The storm of the past, betrayal, blood, abandonment, had faded. All that remained was the man who had saved her, claimed her, and obsessed over her. And Elena, for the first time in her life, knew she was finally exactly where she was meant to be.